Over a century after House Targaryen conquered nearly all of Westeros, the North fell under the leadership of Lord Cregan Stark, whose long life saw him nicknamed the Old Man of the North, and whose influence would greatly impact the future of not only his realm but the entire continent. In the earlier years of his rule, Cregan married Lady Ara Nori, who gave birth to one child, Rickon Stark, before passing away. An accomplished warrior, the Lord of Winterfell once fought Prince Aemon the Dragon Knight Targaryen, who later claimed he never faced a finer swordsman. And so when war came to the continent in 129 AC, Cregan Stark ensured the North's presence was felt. After the death of King Viserys I, his chosen heir, Rhaenyra Targaryen, was usurped by her younger brother, Aegon II, under the influence of his mother, Lady Alicent Hightower, wife of the deceased king. War then erupted, with the realms of Westeros fracturing and both the Green and Black factions doing all they could to persuade the lords of the continent to join their cause. Representing Queen Rhaenyra, her firstborn son, Prince Jacaerys, at the age of 15, rode his dragon Vermax to the Vale, recruiting House Arryn and their forces for the Blacks. He then traveled north, meeting with House Manderlys and the Starks to secure their allegiance through the Pact of Ice and Fire, promising a Targaryen bride for House Stark. With winter approaching, Lord Cregan rallied his forces, taking advantage of the need for soldiers to gather a massive army, bringing childless, homeless, and unwed men to war, as well as young sons hoping to spare their families from supporting them during the harsh years of winter. However, because of the size of the North and difficulty in raising and training men from all over the territory, it would take 2 years for their forces to unite. And so, while the larger host was being gathered, a smaller army, known as the Winter Wolves, was assembled at Barrowton, consisting of 2,000 northern warriors under the command of Lord Roderick Dustin, also known as Roddy the Ruin. The rugged and powerful warriors of the Winter Wolves rode shaggy horses armed with axes, spiked maces, mauls, and ancient iron swords. They proved devastating in battle, charging 5 times into Lannister spearmen at the Battle of the Lakeshore. And while 2/3 of the northern forces were killed or injured in the fighting, they emerged victorious. The death toll of over 2,000 men made it the bloodiest land battle of the war and became known as the Fish Feed. The Winter Wolves also participated in the Butcher's Ball, where a combined army of Northmen and Riverland warriors ambushed Sir Criston Cole, one of the leaders of the Green faction, nicknamed Kingmaker for his efforts to place Aegon on the throne. Lord Roderick Dustin sounded the charge for the vanguard, which saw the Northmen marching alongside Riverland Knights. Although Sir Criston Cole challenged the enemy leadership to single combat, they declined, killing Sir Criston with a volley of arrows and crushing his forces. The Winter Wolves, who survived these intense battles, then made a final push at the First Battle of Tumbleton. Although outnumbered 10 to 1, they charged from a postern gate, carving their way through enemy forces. The sacrifice of the Northmen allowed for Sir Roderick Dustin to engage the enemy commander, Lord Ormond Hightower, and his cousin, Sir Brynden Hightower, slaying them both before succumbing to his own injuries. And while this might have clinched victory for the Blacks, they soon suffered a betrayal by the Dragon Riders, Ulf the White and Hardhugh Hammer, 2 low-born men believed to have trace amounts of Valyrian blood, now risen in status by their ability to bond with a dragon. And while the battle was lost because of their treachery, the efforts of the Winter Wolves and their skills as warriors made them famous throughout the continent. Another group hailing from the north and marching south on behalf of their northern lord Cregan Stark were the Knights of White Harbor, led by the brothers Sir Medric and Sir Torrhen Manderly. Yet where the Winter Wolves were sent directly into battle, Manderly forces went to Queen Rhaenyra, serving her in the capital. During the decline of her rule in King's Landing, the Manderly Northmen were deployed to restore peace during a riot, pacifying the areas between Aegon's Hill and the Iron Gate. After losing the city, the Manderly brothers asked the Queen to come with them to White Harbor, where she might be protected, but she instead chose to travel to Dragonstone, leaving the Manderlys behind. This proved to be a devastating error, however, as she was betrayed by her own people, then captured and killed by the enemy. After 2 years of preparation, the main host of Northmen under Cregan Stark were ready to march and traveled south, eager for combat. However, the situation in the continent had drastically changed since the signing of the Pact of Ice and Fire, and Cregan Stark's plans were soon dashed as a result. During the years of fighting, Queen Rhaenyra had taken King's Landing, only to lose it after a few months. She then met her end on Dragonstone, but her forces refused to surrender, continuing to fight on after her death. On the other side, King Aegon II suffered massive injuries, nearly dying only to recover and retake King's Landing. Nevertheless, his allies and advisors were scattered, with many killed in battle. The realm, meanwhile, was still torn apart and fighting continued, meaning Aegon's actual power did not extend much further than the capital. Fearing the massive northern army approaching, Aegon's remaining advisors urged him to sue for peace, but he stubbornly refused. And so before Cregan Stark could arrive in King's Landing, Aegon was poisoned to death by his own people, and Rhaenyra's firstborn son, known to history as King Aegon III, was placed on the throne. With an apparent victory for the Blacks ending the immediate conflict, everyone hoped it was enough to spare the South from the wrath of the Northmen. And while it did in fact end the war, Cregan Stark was furious that his men were denied battle. In retribution, he took charge of the capital, ruling with an iron fist for 6 days, in what came to be known as the Hour of the Wolf. During this time, he arrested 22 individuals, accusing them of poisoning Aegon II. Although most chose to join the Night's Watch at the Wall, Green supporters Sir Giles Belgrave of the Kingsguard and Larrys the Clubfoot Strong chose death. Lord Corlys Velaryon was originally arrested, but was then pardoned by the king. Cregan Stark agreed to allow the pardon after a negotiation in which he was betrothed and married to Lady Alice Blackwood, who went on to give birth to 4 children. On the last day, Cregan Stark took the title Hand of the King and oversaw the executions and sentences of the guilty, then resigning his position and returning to the north. For his part in consolidating the reign of Aegon III, Lord Stark received many favors and rewards over the next few years, although a princess of House Targaryen was never actually delivered to Winterfell, ultimately leaving the Pact of Ice and Fire unfulfilled. In addition, many of the Northmen who left home to help the North prepare for winter chose to remain behind and start new lives in the South. As for Lord Cregan Stark, he went on to marry Lady Lyanna after the death of his second wife Alice, having 4 more children, including Brandon Stark, who continued the family line as the future Lord of Winterfell.